It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez!
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Justin, and this is my brother Matt. And today, in our first segment, we'll be recapping all the men's and women's racing action this weekend at the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race in Australia. We'll also be taking a look at the Challenge Mallorca, or Vuelta a Mallorca, as it's properly called. We're going to dig into the mechanics of this odd stage race and recap all the action from the week. In our final segment, we're going to share a few thoughts on the conclusion of the Washington Commanders' incredible comeback season, which saw them reach the NFC Championship game for the first time in 33 years. And as always, we'll finish out with more adventures in the Broom Wagon. Allez! Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you haven't had a chance to watch the races yet and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump to segment 2 now. The Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race just finished up outside of Melbourne, Australia, with the men's race coming to a conclusion just a few short hours ago, while the women raced yesterday. The circuit course, with 4 ascents of the Chilambra climb, was a fast sprint finish, provided fireworks on both sides. Matt, what did you make of the racing in Geelong this weekend?
Well, I liked what I was able to see of it, which wasn't a whole lot. None of our services were running it, or had it available as a replay. The TIS site that folks may be aware of, was streaming it, but as of right now, Sunday morning have not put it up for a replay. So I didn't get a whole chance to see a whole lot of it. That said, it's a cool race, first of all. So I love the 2 weeks in Australia that we get to spend every year. At the beginning of the season, we talked last week about the Tour Down Under. Great racing on both sides, and then boom, the following weekend we get this other cool race. Also, there's the Surf Classic in between, which as we'll see on the women's side was won by the same person, the Surf Classic and the full Cadel race. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and I'm hoping that next year I'm able to see more of it or something, because a little disappointing in that regard.
Yeah, very stark difference to last week, where you had all the coverage. I mean, if you wanted to watch that thing end to end, you could watch the whole thing from the Tour Down Under. And you get to this, and there's it's just really hard. And again, that's the drag of being an American cycling fan, is that it's not easy to be an American cycling fan because there's not a lot of outlets. Better than it used to be, obviously, but not great. From what I was able to see, at least on the men's side, Mauro Schmid winning, love that. Swiss champion, love that jersey. I know that you're a big fan of it as well.
Last year's winner, Lawrence Pithy, in third.
Yeah. I actually pulled up, and I'll go over here in just a minute, but I wanted to say the 4 climbs, I love that. That climb looks ridiculous.
It's epic.
I mean, it's just dead straight and just so such a steep incline. Oh man, that thing is crazy. I definitely dig the fact that this race, I like how they frame it with all of the scenery. I don't know. I just think it's a really, really beautiful race.
It is beautiful. I
It
like to
honestly, it makes me sad that there isn't better color, that we didn't get to see more of it, because it's one of those things. That's one of the things that I love about cycling, is that you get to see all this beautiful countryside. But the fact that I couldn't see this, and what I could see was so beautiful, it is a little disappointing.
Yeah, I like these circuit courses we're seeing a lot of. I feel like they had them definitely in the TDU last week. The Olympics last year with the circuit in Paris was just so cool, and I like a circuit course where there's like a nasty climb, because it really sets up a lot of strategizing, and it's like, where, can we get the entire team to the foot of the climb on the final one to put our guy in position? Or like, do I need to be by myself over the top of the second to last climb, and in order to stay away, is that, that's the only way I can do it. I mean, it just sets up a lot of like really cool possibilities. Um, and especially when you got a climb like that, that's just like so powerful. um it's very tasty.
No, and it separates the wheat from the chaff for sure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of ups and downs and drama in when you have a circuit and you have a climb like that. I also dig it for the fans, man. You know me. I love the fact that I think the circuit allows people to get a little bit more out of the race. Um, and it definitely seems like people are into that race. There was so much going on the side of the road, and the stuff that I saw, that I was able to see, that little kids like running alongside,
Yes, I love that those
like
two little kids were just like in a full sprint, and they were like,
yes,
they're like 3 feet away from the riders. Part of me
yeah,
was like, kids, get the hell back, like you're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
kill
This is
somebody.
dangerous. Yeah,
And then did you see the guy like with the garden hose, just like straight up just standing there, just like spraying the guys down as they're coming by?
I did see that,
I
which is
love that.
well, and like I
Probably
guess
dangerous as hell too, but
I think it was, yeah, no kidding. God, I would think that fresh water on hot tarmac is probably not a great thing. Um,
it felt good though.
I bet it did. I will, and they said, I was listening to G's podcast, and he was talking about that it was pretty warm down there. Like like typically it's a little bit more mild, but he said that this year it's been pretty warm down there. So I could see that happening, but and they're definitely near the coast, so like I'm sure that it's a little bit. I'm sure that it's a little bit warm. Um, what about the women's side? What did you? Because obviously, I'm sure you saw a little bit more of that than you did in the men's. What did you think there?
Yeah, I mean, Elise Chabet coming through as a total hero for Allie
Doing
Wollaston. She
doing
like
the work, man. She was
closed
just putting
closed
it in.
closed the big gap, sets up Wollaston, who's obviously in great form since she wins both the Surf Coast Classic earlier in the week and the big race yesterday. Um, you know, hit her, and it's just like I was saying last week. Like I love how you get all the for the most part all the same names from the TDU in this race. Everybody sticks around, and so it's just like makes this nice block of racing, and you can see people who are coming into form last week, and you know timing it to perfection to peak this week. And Wollaston is obviously a good example of that. You also had Chloe Dargert, our girl, up in the mix. I was really, really hoping she would be able to make it happen, and
I don't
she,
think she had the pieces around. I mean, obviously Chabet is, uh, really made it easier for Wollaston to win, and so I don't know. I just don't think she had the right support. But man, does she look strong, dude? Like,
yeah, and Ruth Edwards is like right there as well. I think they were like fourth and sixth or something like that. The two of them. So, and they both did well in the TDU. I mean, that's like great to see two strong Americans like
always.
banging around the top five of these races. So, um, that bodes very well. Um, yeah, I just thought, I don't know, Chloe was looking like she was no problem for to at least be sprinting for the win. And at the very end, she kind of fell off there.
I think that ending is just brutal. I mean, I just think that if you don't get it exactly right, it's going to be really really tough to win. I mean, it's a that hill is crazy. You know what I mean? That it takes a lot of power to be able to manage that the way that
Yeah,
the way they have to
that
do it.
that girl from X Pro Cycling, Mia Otterstad, the Norwegian national champion. She kind of broke away and was dangling off the front for a while. Um, I feel like in the racing that I've been watching in the past week, that like X has sort of just been omnipresent both on the men's and the women's side, but have not come through with a win yet. And I'm always rooting for an underdog, or the smaller teams and stuff like that, which I kind of consider X, you know, on the lower tier or whatever. Um, but honestly, uh, there's been a lot of success for teams that are not necessarily always up there in the mix. Um, um, for the past like week or so, and we're going to get into it more when we talk about the Challenge Mallorca here on our next segment. But yeah, some of these teams that you're not used to seeing up there. I mean, uh, you, Human Powered Health got a big win. Um, EF has had a couple of wins here. Um, the new
Tutor,
Pigcock thing that we're going to get into,
yeah,
Q36, already have wins.
Tutor got a win.
Yeah, Tudor with wins. So it's an interesting start to the season, but we'll get into that more.
I don't,
Um,
I kind of dig it, man. I dig it that like, because if you think about how things were last year, especially when you get into the major races, it's pretty much dominated by, well, at least last year is dominated by one guy, and nobody else is left to be able to do it. Now, I won't say that his team has also picked up wins without him already this year. So
oh, they're leading in wins right now.
yeah.
Um,
So but it's nice to see smaller teams get in the mix, get some wins, and get some exposure. Because I just think it's good for cycling in general. Because to me, it makes it more interesting. I like learning about smaller teams and different riders and people I've never heard of, and it allows you to then kind of watch as they grow. And there was that kid that um oh man, he just got signed. I just can't think of his name, but he was a smaller team rider and got noticed last year and picked up and got picked up and onto a bigger pro team. And I just love.
you're talking about the guy from the guy that's on your team. I can't even remember because they haven't existed for the past 2 weeks. You know, your team.
VLab.
Yeah. Yeah, they just acquired some young dude. I think that's probably the guy you're talking about.
It may be. Yeah, I can't. He's a Spanish rider. I know that. So, but I do. I love the smaller teams. So, um, you got anything else?
No, I think that does it.
Alrighty. Well, on that note, we'll be right back to talk about the Challenge Mallorca. Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you haven't had a chance to watch the race yet and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump to segment 3 now. The Challenge Mallorca is a 5-day race located in the beautiful Spanish island of Mallorca, a jewel of the Western Mediterranean Sea, due south of Barcelona. And while the race is not recognized as a 5-day stage race by the UCI, because the rules allow teams to pick and choose which race to send their riders to, many riders do come to race all 5 days, and there are prizes awarded to racers in the usual full race categories such as overall GC, sprints, mountains, etc. The racing in Spain is finishing up as we speak with the Trofeo Palma race, named after the largest town on the island. Matt, what has stood out to you in the action from either the men's or the women's races?
Lots of things. A lot of great racing. Stoked to be diving into this race this year because it has not been on my radar in years past, really at all. So, I mean, if there's my biggest takeaway, success for EF on both sides. I am so stoked about that very first race out the gate. You saw a lot of Hentala from EF Oatly win the first one of the women's, which was the Trofeo Marazzi. I don't even have any idea. So, and then on the men's side, you had Marijn Vandenberg winning the Trofeo Seis Salines, which I think was the second race, with like just a killer lead out from Michael Valgren, the whole team. But actually, in both of those wins, you saw the whole EF squad just bossing it up on the front, like 5 deep with 3Ks to go. It just like fills me with joy to see that team doing it like that. I need to find Jonathan Vaughter somewhere online talking right now, because I just want to hear that guy. I just want to hear that guy. I want to see him happy.
Yeah.
So, what stood out to you? What did you like so far?
Marlon Rooser, I thought she looked really, really good. I thought that was a great little win for her. I also really, on the men's side, I really liked the solo victory in the first race with Jan Christian. I mean, another win for UAE, but I thought he looked really strong. I thought that just was a really good ride, especially once he broke away. I thought that
he was gone.
Yeah, he just looks so powerful, and it's an interesting juxtaposition against the fact that Jonathan Navarez looks so strong as well. So I just, I think that team is just putting in the work, man. Like those guys all just work their asses off. So
I'm gonna throw out a weird theory here. Not theory. I don't know. Do you find that the riders on UAE, like their physical profiles, they look very similar? It's like they're in the Pogačar mold, like kind of wiry, like tall and wiry. I mean, Ayuso looks like that. The Mexican guy, what's his name? But also this guy Jan Christian, he's got that same like wiry like profile. No, they're good.
Has that same profile too. Like,
he's a little bit stockier, I think. But anyways, it's a half cooked idea.
Well, I mean, they're obviously, I'm sure they're running on the same nutrition plans and obviously training plans and different things like that. So it doesn't, it's not surprising. And that team is super duper locked in on nutrition, because that's one of the things that they talked about with Pogačar. The differences between 23 and 24 was that he had dropped, weight, and it's very much that power to weight ratio that, helps him produce the things that he does. So I'm sure that because they're focusing so much on Tade, that the other riders are drafting off of that, what's going on in the rest of the team.
Yeah, no, that was a good win. Back on the Marlon Russa tip, I'm thrilled to see her like coming strong on her new team. She just moved to Movistar, and she had a tough season last year. She started off super strong. She had like a big win early in the season, and then had some kind of crash, and it basically like destroyed the rest of her season. Even though she was there in a lot of races last year, just like not on top form. And that was just kind of cool seeing her and Mavi Garcia out in front. I only realized belatedly that like Garcia is from Mallorca. And she's one of those riders that just seems like the perpetual also ran. She was sort of like in that like Neo Adoma category where it's just like always in the mix, never closes the deal. And once again, she was right there. And I'm watching her, and she is riding on the front in front of Marlon Russa, like for, you know, K after K. I'm just like, what are you doing? She's gonna beat you in the sprint. Sit on her wheel and then wait for the final climb, and then just try to go thermonuclear and get some distance on her. And yeah, she was leading up the climb, but she was also leading her out in the flat before they got to the climb. And I'm just like, come on, Maddie, like you got to do better than that.
Yeah.
Because once they were at the top of that climb, and they were completely locked together, it was a foregone conclusion. There's no way she's beating Royce in that sprint. So, but I was glad to see Royce get a win, and also, like I was saying in the last segment, Movistar they did real well and tore down under too with Javier Romo. Got a stage win, had the ochre jersey for 2 days, and I mean, you know, that's a team that doesn't see a ton of success, even though they're kind of a top tier team.
Well, and in my opinion, probably one of the best photos that came out of there was that photo of Romo in the Movistar jersey, you know, pointing at his arm like that. Man, just a great looking shot there. Did you dig into any of like the history of the race at all? Because I found that as I was doing a little bit of research this week, I thought it was really cool. Some of the former GC, or you know, quote unquote GC winners from years past were. Listen to this. You have, I mean, these are some big names. Alejandro Valverde, 2-time GC winner, obviously, you know, Spain. Luis Leon Sanchez, Philippe Gilbert, like big names, man, big names.
Yeah.
And then in the more recent years, you know, we had, you know, as far as some of the just the winners around, and talk about riders that are really coming into their own now. Brandon McNulty, he won one. Biniam Girmay, Tim Wellens. Who else?
Rui Costa.
Yeah, Rui Costa. Ethan Vernon, Arnaud Delis.
Yeah.
So,
I really dig the way it's set up. I mean, it's interesting that they go out and fight for a GC kind of victory, even though it's not really recognized. It's kind of cool that they're each like their own little races, and it's cool for the teams. So apparently, like the teams will bring much larger squads than they would to a stage race, because they can just enter one or enter two or enter whichever ones they want. And so it's a good way to start like gauging where a lot of the riders on the team are at. Also, Mallorca is freaking gorgeous. Like what a cool place to race. And I guess they just get a little bit better weather than when you're on the mainland, because it looked like it to be somewhat warm there.
Yeah, obviously weather factored in the fourth day. So
yeah.
no race on the fourth day for the men. That was canceled.
Yeah, apparently the riders were like all crashing like in the opening kilometers of the race, and they just stopped and were just like, nah, we're done. We're not doing this. And the race organization was like, okay.
Good for them, because you know, obviously safety is a, you know, big deal. So you know, I'm glad that they were able to do that. I was just glad to see Tudor Cycling get a win, by the way.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. That was a great win by that guy. And Hershey did awesome. It was like Stork got some distance off of the front, and then Hershey just covered everything. I love team tactics in cycling, and it's cool.
Well, and that's definitely a team that I've got my eye on like really hard this year, because they made a lot of moves in the off season, and so I mean I want to see that team really come into their own.
Yeah, I'm hoping that guy Arvid Decline improves because he's racing over there at the Alula thing, and he crashed out. I think it was the second stage that Merlier, or maybe it was the first and the third that Merlier won sprints, and Decline crashed in one of them, and he was like fifth or sixth in the other one. So I'm hoping for better things from that dude because I liked him. Did you catch how Fabian Cancellara was there at the finish when Stork had that win?
I did not actually.
Yeah, he's like one of the owners of Tudor. That's like his team. He's of course the great Swiss champion of just a few years ago. Amazing time trialist. Yellow jersey holder, stage tour, Grand Tour stage winner, et cetera. Total legend of the sport. And boom, he was right there, just like right with the team, like mixing it up, giving guys hugs and stuff like that. I was like,
awesome.
yeah, I like it. I like this. I like it when the boss is right there, on the ground, mixing it up with the boys.
Oh yeah, that's
That
awesome.
was cool.
I did not see that at all.
So yeah, cool racing down there. I think that's a really
I really encourage everybody if you haven't seen it. It's a great way to see some riders that you're not used to seeing, and a really neat kind of format. So there's one more today. It starts about probably 30 minutes or so. So
it's another bucket lister for a trip. I mean, that would be an amazing trip. Just you go to Mallorca for a week, hang out, just like catch bike races all over the island, and hit the beach in the afternoon. Like that would be amazing.
Yeah, especially when it's as cold as it is here.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
So, well, on that note, we'll come back and talk a little American football. The American football team, the Washington Commanders, have just finished up the best season they've had in 33 years. Matt and I grew up in the Washington, D.C. suburbs, the children of loyal fans of the then-named Washington Redskins, and considered ourselves lifelong fans as well. However, as the team's fates turned negative during the years of the loathsome and deplorable Dan Snyder's ownership, we both fell away from interest in the team. Pro cycling, of course, filled the void in many ways. But last year, Snyder was forced to sell the team, and then they acquired Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels as their quarterback, and thus began a dream season that long-suffering Washington fans have been waiting for, literally for 3 decades. And while their season came to a crushing end in the NFC Championship game last weekend at the hands of the dominant Philadelphia Eagles, the future looks very bright indeed. Matt, let's talk Washington Commanders.
Yes, let's talk Washington Commanders. Man, was that a fun ride this season. I am not the biggest football fan in the world by any means. You'll recall my screed about football several weeks ago in the Broom Wagon. There's a lot to not like about the NFL and football as a sport. It is ridiculously dangerous and not good for children. I stand by that. However, we're talking about fully autonomous adults playing this sport. And as a Washingtonian or, a Marylander, grew up rooting for this team, it has been a long, long time, and it's really sucked watching what has gone on with this team under Dan Snyder, who's just one of the most loathsome individuals ever. I mean, he's like a Bond villain. This guy, he's just disgusting. And it was incredible that they were able to force him to sell the team, and to see it then just like turn right around on a dime as soon as that ended. Life never works this way. You know what I mean? It never works this way. And it's just so nice.
My thing with the Washington Redskins, I remember exactly where I watched them last win the Super Bowl. I was in the Cadigan's house with mom and dad and a rack of people.
I was a Domino's pizza and only.
And then, it was, my entire adult life spent watching the team that I grew up loving just completely struggle and make mistake after mistake and thing that I disagreed with after thing I disagreed with. And at some point in the RG3 era, or no, I guess it was after the RG3 era, was when they let Kirk Cousins go. When they didn't sign Kirk Cousins to a long-term contract, let him leave, and it was simply because out of spite, because it wasn't Dan Snyder's guy. I remember saying to Dad, like, I'm done. I'm not giving them any more time. I'm not giving them any more of my money. I'm done with it. They've been looking for this thing for years. Here it is. All they have to do is retain it, and they didn't do it. And they did, and it was for the worst reasons. So at that point, I stopped. I stopped caring about Washington football entirely. I live in the Pittsburgh region. I would follow Pittsburgh, and that was really it. I found it so refreshing to be able to root for the team that I grew up loving and being able to watch them actually compete and do well. And it has given me hope for the future that this team could come back and make it exciting again. And Jaden Daniels, I think, is the truth. I think that kid is really good. The biggest question mark is, can they keep him long term and can he stay healthy? But man, does he look good. So
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I don't think I was following them as closely as you were. I couldn't have told you that there was the Kirk Cousins deal or whatever. Now that you mention it, it kind of reminds me. I mean, you also mentioned RG3, and it was so hopeful. We were so hopeful when RG3 came through. Like, oh God, and for a while there, it looked like it might pan out, and then that thing just like made a hard left turn and did not work out at all. Let's also not forget all the bad decision making, in the front office. That was all bad. The whole Dan Snyder of it all.
Albert Hainsworth. They gave
I don't
Albert
know what that means.
Hainsworth $100 million. He played a handful of games at best and ended up leaving. I think all in all, they ended up paying him about $40 million to do absolutely nothing. And that was just one of dozens of terrible front office decisions.
Right. Okay. So let me finish my point.
Sure.
So, you take all of that and then you add on to it, starting at about, like, I don't know, it was 4 or 5, 6 years ago, all of just the bad news coming out of the organization about the culture of negativity and sexism and violence and and it's just Snyder world. They go through that whole crucible. They have the name change, which they really kind of bumble. I mean, we had 2 seasons of them being called the Washington football team. It was embarrassing. It was absolutely embarrassing. And I know that, you and I sort of disagree on the whole name situation. I stand by my belief that it was the right decision. And I think that, they're the Washington Commanders now. And I actually kind of love the fact that they have a new identity. I mean, they had 30 years as, in the Snyder era, and it's all new. And I love having all of that crap, hopefully having all of that crap behind us. I mean, we do have a lot of that crap behind us, that the next thing is just success on the field. But
I will agree with you that it is a shedding of the skin of the snake skin, so to speak, where you're emerging from the chrysalis and being something new. So I mean, there's definitely something to be said about that, and a major change like that can also help give it a major culture shift, which, obviously I think that team needed. But I think that it just leaves a very bright, hope for the future with that team, that they can get back to some form or glory. And, you know, again, this is year one with him. So now they can start to build around him, especially while they still have him under a rookie contract. They could be very competitive next year. Now, I will say, when it comes to that NFC Championship game, they were dominated on both sides of the ball. I mean, there was no doubt about it. They look like the Redskins from this past Sunday versus the Redskins from the week before look completely different. But
Commanders.
I apologize. The Commanders. The fact that I just think they need that consistency. I think that that'll come with time, and they put some better pieces in there, especially some offensive line help. I do. I mean, they created a lot of turnovers the week before, and I think that was a big difference between their win the previous week and their loss this week. Is that Philadelphia 100% won the turnover game, and I think that was the biggest factor in the Eagles just really dominating them.
For sure. I mean, that's also the best, defense in the league. And then there's the whole Saquon Barkley of it all.
God,
I mean,
good.
that game really, to me, it felt like that game felt like it had been coming all season long. Like, it was really, I mean, it was hard to believe that they won their wild card game. And then it was really hard to believe that they beat the Lions, So the drubbing from Philly, it sucked. But yeah, I think it was in the cards all along, and it doesn't really diminish what they achieved this season. They'll take a lot of lessons from that. And the prospects are good. I mean, they've got some incredible young talent on the team, Jaden Daniels being, at the center of all that. And then they got some key veterans as well that are going to assist in that transition. You are going to have free agents all over the place with their eyes on this team. Like, this has suddenly become a desirable place to go. That is going to help out with that whole mix as well. And then you got the incredible coaching of Dan Quinn, who is a blue collar guy that, the players love. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that are falling into place.
Tons of upswing for sure. It was also, on a more personal note, it was also really, I don't know. It made me think a lot about Dad. I mean, I know one of my kind of most indelible memories of Dad and Washington football is the fact that every Sunday Dad would park himself in his chair, he'd turn on his radio, put Sonny Sam and Frank on on the radio. He'd mute the TV because you could do that back then because like the delay wasn't as bad as it is now, and he would listen to Sonny Sam and Frank call the game while he watched it on the television. And that was every Sunday during football season. Like every Sunday, that's exactly where Dad, unless they had something going on, that's where Dad was. And it did. It made me, it definitely made me think of the old man. And, I think that he would have been so damn excited over this run. I just, I think he would have been beside himself. I know you watched it with Mom. What was that like?
It was wonderful getting to watch the game with Mom. Hello, Mom.
And Mom is going to listen. Mom, one of the most pessimistic sports viewers that you could ever watch anything with. But she is an avid sports fan. She's a big Nationals fan and, a Redskins fan, or a Commanders fan.
Again, let me reiterate how much I enjoyed watching the game with Mom. No, let me say this. While the Commanders did not give us the single greatest photograph uh, of the year from the NFL, which is definitely Saquon Barkley in full spin move as he's jumping a guy with his legs spread. They gave us the best moment of the year in the NFL, in my opinion, which is the Hail Mary win over Chicago. Like unreal,
Yeah, that was unreal.
unreal. That was so amazing. Like, so thank you for that, Commanders. Thank you for that whole season. And I am so with them next year. I try to keep up with football in general and sports in general, really, because I know that I have fans of all sports coming in to the bar on a regular basis. And it's nice to be able to, lead with like, hey, how about them, Real Madrid guys or whatever it
Well,
is,
and you have sports on pretty much all the time at work too, right?
Yeah, there's always sports on, but I cannot pay attention to the TV when I'm like it's to my back and I'm not looking at it. Um, but so I try to keep myself up to date on stuff. That's why I listen to some sporting podcasts are good. And it's just sort of nice to be back in the fold, by choice. Every single person that I greeted goodbye last week, every single one of them got hey, take care, folks. Good seeing you. Come back and see us again, and go Commanders. And they were all just like, yeah, it was nice.
It's crazy because I've been through a couple of Super Bowl wins in the Pittsburgh region. It, this the area, the city just it gets a different feel when you're on a run towards a championship. It just the everybody gets involved, even the tertiary people that don't really care, are
Yeah.
starting to start to care, and it creates a buzz, and it's a really fun thing. So I'm sure that it was a fun experience for you over the last few weeks, especially as they were in the playoffs.
Yeah, and speaking of the Super Bowl, I got a feeling we're headed for like one of the best Super Bowls that we have seen in ages because I think Philly is the better team. I mean, to me, even though the Chiefs are, the odds favorites, um, and why wouldn't they be? But this season, they've been squeaking out games left, right, and center. Like they weren't dominating teams this year. They
Correct.
were finding a way to win as they do, and I certainly think they're capable of that in the Super Bowl. But just watching the dismantling of the Commanders last week by the Eagles, I mean, Saquon Barkley, just
If he
that
has a
guy.
game, if he has a game like he did against the Commanders against the Chiefs, the Chiefs don't stand a chance.
That dude's acceleration behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, he when he gets to the line of scrimmage, that man is moving so fast. I would not want to be trying to tackle that guy.
Well,
And yeah, it's
watching the Commanders game, the Commanders go down the field and score on that first drive, and they take up like I don't even know, like 6 or 7 minutes or something like that. Like, I mean,
yes, yeah,
and you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. This is great. And then it took them 31 play in 30 seconds to put seven
right,
points on the board, and you were like, and everybody just went, and had
yeah.
had that
Everyone was just
moment.
like,
So
oh no,
yeah,
oh no.
if yeah, God, you know what it made me think
It's
of
so
is
ominous.
it made me think of, this is probably when you were not carrying either, but there was a game against Philadelphia when they had, I think it was I can't remember if it was during the Terrell Owens era. No, 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 no. Who was their little tiny running back? I can't think of his name. There's a little tiny running back for a while. It was very good. And they on Monday night they put like 45 points up against the Redskins. And I mean it was just an absolute you know just drubbing. I think it was when Michael Vick was actually their quarterback. But oh my God, it made me think of that because it was
It
one of
made
those.
me go ahead.
Go. No, no, you're fine.
It made me think of actually it was the I think it was the Doug Williams win. Yeah, Doug Williams, that was the guy's name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, when they won the Super Bowl with him against, I believe it was Denver, And you were probably like young because I watched
3 or 4 at
yeah,
that point.
yeah. I watched. I remember watching this at Tony Fletcher's house. But the opening play of the game, Denver like had a set 65-yard touchdown run, and it was just like, oh God, no! Like your heart just sunk. And so, and then
Wind
the, and
out
the
of the sails.
yeah, but then the whole game turned around, like, and they won in pretty strong fashion. But anyways, I flashed to that moment actually when he ran that touchdown back. It was just so ominous. But hey, great season, and I'm stoked for next year.
Yeah. So, on that note, we're going to be back and we're going to take a ride in the Broom Wagon. Welcome back. Matt, what do you got for us in the Broom Wagon this week?
All right, it's short and sweet in the Broom Wagon. For me, I am going to recommend cereal combinations in my Broom Wagon today.
Wait, like
It's
breakfast cereal?
Yes, I'm recommending breakfast cereal combinations. We have these two like big old plastic containers for breakfast cereal, and sometimes I've gone to the store and picked up like 3 or 4 different cereals just because of whatever. And one day recently, I had these 2 boxes in my hand, and the containers that we have will hold 2 like full boxes of cereal, like the sort of medium sized boxes. And I was like, ooh, what if I mix them? I believe it was Honey Nut Cheerios and Corn Chex. So I just mixed the whole thing, and there was just something so good about it. I got my little sweetness from my Honey Nut Cheerios, but I got my Corn Chex and my good powerful crunch, and it was just like a new cereal flavor that I've never tasted before. And so I did that, and I'm like, this is kind of low key genius. So now I'm just on the hunt for cool combinations out there. So I'm gonna recommend you go out, you get yourself a nice vintage Tupperware container from Craigslist or the local antique store. You don't have to buy it from the big box store online. Um, hit the thrift store, get a nice, cool looking container, and start doing custom cereal combinations because it's very rewarding and a lovely way to start your day. Might I recommend Golden Grams with Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Or why don't you go double fruity with Captain Crunch and Fruity Pebbles? Maybe take your Honey Nut Cheerios and throw in some Frosted Flakes, or do your peanut butter Captain Crunch with Cocoa Puffs. It's like a Reese's peanut butter cup in your bowl. So mix up the milks, throw in some dried fruit over the top, some nuts, go crazy. Cereal combinations.
It's interesting that you say that because like we definitely have, my wife is a big cereal person. I love Frosted Flakes, but they're not very good for you. They now make a frosted bran flake, which is a little bit more heart healthy, but still with a little bit of sweetness. I've been having that, but maybe I could mix that in with a little bit of something that's not quite as better for you. So I will definitely do that.
That's another point. I find the same thing. Like I just feel guilty if I eat an entire bottle of Captain Crunch, but if I dump a little bit of Captain Crunch on top of my Cheerios, I get some sweetness and the Captain Crunch flavor I'm looking for, but I'm eating some Cheerios.
And
so what do you got today?
And the roof of your mouth doesn't get completely shredded. My topic is very, very easy this week, and something that I will continue to probably recommend. But Demi Vollering is on the Geraint Thomas Cycling Club this week. It was a tremendous interview with him and Tom. She talks about the Tour de France loss pretty in depth, and just very, very, very interesting. It's very interesting to hear it from her, what happened, and how she describes it. I highly recommend it. It's out on, I think all the normal platforms where you could digest podcasts. But if you're not listening to that regularly, you really should be, especially if you're a cycling fan, because he gets the best guests, and this is a great one. Highly recommend it.
I saw that she was in the feed, and I have not caught up with that one yet. I'm very excited. Her team's already off to a good start with that win, those 2 wins for Allie Wollaston.
And
So she's on FGJ, right?
Yeah, she talks about
Yeah.
the switch to the new team too. So it's just very interesting interview. Very, very interesting. And that's all for this week, folks. Join us next week for a full recap of the Women's UAE Tour, full recaps of El Toit de Besson. I don't know if I got that one good or not. And the Volta a la Comunidad Valenciana. And an in-depth look at every American World Tour level rider, women and men competing in 2025. Until then, for my brother Matt, I'm Justin Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us on another ride beyond the slipstream. Allez!
Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!